There is a rumor from Elite Prospects today that Calle Jarnkrok is leaving the Toronto Maple Leafs and going to Brynäs. I don't know where that is.
The Swedish league.
Okay. And that we called Chris Johnson, and Chris Johnson said that's complete bullshit. So, I mean, listen, rumors happen. Always good to check with your insider. And, it's interesting. This one made a lot of sense in a vacuum. Like, you could easily explain this to yourself because the way this contract was signed, and this was a Kyle Dubas contract, the majority of this contract was bonuses. And Calle's in his last year, and the bonus is always paid on July 1st. So he only really had league min to make this year.
And you're what? The season's already underway.
30 or 40% in. So
he's owed like $400,000.
Yeah. So that is a guy that I could easily see going, yeah, you know what? I'm not really liking my time, and I'm going to go to Sweden, and I'll make that back in Sweden.
The one thing I'll stick up for EP for is they didn't specify when.
No, they just said it was a rumor. I don't know.
Yeah. No, but like it could be next season.
Yeah.
Like guys make decent money over in Europe. I don't think Jarnkrok would have made $400,000 for an abbreviated season in Sweden.
I would imagine it would have been over multiple years. That was my
I'm
not saying he would make it back
possible
this year, but it's like like David Kampf, right? He's not going to make that money that he gave up back right away.
Here's the difference between Jarnkrok and David Kampf. Jarnkrok is in the NHL, and not only is he in the NHL, he's in the lineup.
Yeah.
There's no reason for him to rip up his deal.
I wondered if obviously I think he is probably overpaid at this point for what he brings, but he's still a reliable defensive forward that I do think you need. However, I feel like the Leafs would also appreciate, just like with Kampf, the cap flexibility that it might give you.
You could take him or leave him. Like, I don't...
I feel like you could find somebody on the Marlies who could do some of what Calle does.
Yeah, probably.
At this point.
Probably. For a lot less.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't think he's so useless that you can't use him.
I think Calle Jarnkrok is worth $2.1 million. Like, I feel like he's useful enough that he's better than a player who's making 900. Like, he can play in so many different parts of the lineup. If you needed somebody in your middle six, he can fill in there. And he can also, like you said, play great defensively. I don't think the cap flexibility of $2.1 million is worth getting rid of Jarnkrok for the million you'd save on the 925 player.
When he's in the lineup, he's on the penalty kill. If you're up by a goal, he's out there in the final, let's say 3 minutes, not necessarily with your final unit, but he's out there. If if like Cowan or someone is on your second line and you're in the final 5 minutes, you might replace him with Jarnkrok, right? Or Lawton has been the more popular guy at times this season. He's a defensively responsible forward. What is starting to frustrate me about him is I've defended him by saying he's good for like 10 to 15 goals every single year. And like historically, you look at his career, it's every single year. Last year was the outlier because he was injured. He scored 3 goals to start the season and shut it off.
I think 4 in 19 is what he have, which would be on pace for what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've been thinking,
No, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you're right. You're
I'll
right.
give you a second to do the math, but it is.
Yeah.
Well, put it this way. He's cold.
Yes,
So
that is true.
And
I'd
he's
love for him
also-
to chip one in.
He's also not like I get what you're saying, but I'm like, that's not what they're using it for.
Yeah, well, that's not what they're using Steven Lorentz for, but like on occasion,
He scores.
it's nice to chip in the occasional goal. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I get that. I want to know what we can expect from Henry Thrun. People have been begging for this guy to be called up. He finally has been. This is the guy that came over from San Jose in the Ryan Reeves trade, which is kind of crazy. And from what I've heard, he's a very, very competitive person. Has had a really good start with the Marlies. What do we expect?
I expect him to play like it.
Okay.
I talked about Mermis and this being one of his last chances in the NHL. I mean, geez, how many defensemen have played for the Leafs this year? 9, 10?
We're getting there, yeah.
You're this far down, right? But you're still getting this opportunity. You better play like it's your last day in the league, because it might be. We need this. We need you to move the puck well. We need you to pay attention to assignments. We need you to not screw it up. Every point is so important to this team. They've been playing well. They've allowed, I think it's 10 goals in their last 7 games. combined. That's nuts.
He had played 119 games with the San Jose Sharks over in parts of the last 3 seasons, keeping in mind, of course, that the Sharks were bad and not as deep on defense. Yeah. So, but he has plenty of NHL experience, I think is my point. He's got more NHL games than Dakota Mermis.
You're totally right.
So he also is a left shot guy. So how do you like him with Benoit?
I would imagine it's Benny on the right, but I don't know how much right he played in San Jose. Listen, it's one of those situations where you just got to friggin' figure it out. And the Leafs are being real cautious about William Villeneuve. He's the name who keeps coming up. I'd really like to see him, but if you have a choice between a guy who's never been there before and a guy who has, maybe you should side with a guy like Henry Thrun.
Do you think that that a guy like Will Villeneuve is just too offensively minded for what Berube wants in that position?
Well, maybe they feel satisfied with, because that was something they needed so badly, and maybe they feel satisfied with what Stetcher's bringing.
Now, Rafai and Chris Tanev were both participants in Leafs practice today, both wearing red jerseys. So it's pretty clear that Tanev will not play tomorrow night. And Kyprios reported on his show that there's a potential surgery going on there, and that they would hope to get him back at the end of the season if it came down to that. But based on what we know from what happened on the ice, I think it was it Michkov or whatever he kind of backed into?
Yes.
That I would imagine that's a neck thing. It should look like a neck thing.
You can't screw around with that.
Yeah.
Everyone keeps bringing up Jake Muzzin, and that was a good NHL defenseman until he wasn't.
Due at the doctor today. So we'll see what happens. So he's going to go to practice, then he's going to be reevaluated, and we'll see what happens. So
I wonder how much they tell us.
Oh, they will not tell us anything. Jesse, being around the rink, you've seen Tanev get on the ice and skate before practice, right? Like he's on before or he's on after. Does he look ready?
No, he hasn't participated in practice until today. Today he was practicing and actually practicing with the team. So just kind of skating around beforehand. So he definitely wasn't ready. He'll need a full practice, which he had today, but still no contact. So I haven't seen him be ready just quite yet.
This is just in from David Alter too. Craig Berube says Dakota Mermis will be out at least a month. Weighing in on the McMahon suspension, he said it wasn't much of a, and then he stopped himself and he said, I thought it was more of him just kind of getting bumped and the stick kind of, I don't know, you got to control your stick, but I don't think it was worth the suspension.
Gage Concalvis got nothing.
Yeah.
Mermis is out a month. That could, who knows when his next NHL game will be.
Lance Hornby is also saying that Henry Thrun is a good bet to play the right side tomorrow.
Got it. Okay.
So there you go.